And at the weekend, Enoch Powell returned to his old bet noir, immigration. In a hard-hitting speech, Mr. Powell warned of racial civil war in Britain. Many have said it is his most provocative speech on race ever, and there have been demands for him to be prosecuted. And even if Attorney General Sam Silken doesn't begin legal action himself against the Ulster Unionist MP, then other MPs may begin private proceedings. And it's certainly a dilemma for the Labour Party. Allan Hargreaves talked earlier today to two left-wingers, Mrs. Maureen Colquhoun and Arthur Latham, former chairman of the Tribune Group.
Mrs. Colquhoun, in face of the furore, indeed the fury that Mr. Powell's speech has stirred up, why did you virtually come out in support of him?
Well, I thought it was time for someone to say that he wasn't a racialist, because that is what I discovered after spending a couple of years sitting on the back benches of the House, that his speeches are not racialist. He's merely issuing warnings. And then I thought it was time that someone was brave enough in the Labour Party to say to the party, what about having another look at the race situation if, from your own experience, you're finding that things are different to what you've always believed?
Why do you say he's not a racialist? His speeches aren't racialist.
Well, I think if they're analysed very carefully, his speeches are warnings. And I think what happens to his speeches is that they are manipulated by the media.
That's always thrown at us, but not always true. Mr. Powell's well known for what he has said in the past and what he said over this weekend.
Well, he says it with clarity and he says it with truth, and I think he is entitled to be listened to. I think if you take the parallel of Winston Churchill before the war, who was constantly warning the nation of war and was labelled viciously on many occasions as a warmonger, even by his own party. We have a similar parallel with Enoch Powell. Now, I don't support all that he does, but I felt it was time to say that things are not right, having...
To the extent of a civil war between black and white in this country?
Well, even the black leaders themselves are saying that unless the politicians do something, there will be a civil war.
Right. Arthur Latham, you've heard what Ms. Colquhoun, who is a colleague of yours and indeed a member of the same group as you, has had to say. What do you think of her reading?
A very close friend and a very friendly person. I think she's really going too far in being lovable and affectionate on these occasions. Really, you see, what matters is what Powell and Maureen and I and everybody else knows will happen with the kind of speech that Powell is making. However clever the words, and however much he might try in the words that he uses to escape the particular label that Maureen says doesn't apply, and I think it'd be difficult to do with some of the phrases in his recent speech, he knows from a lot of experience in making that kind of speech, he knows from his general understanding of the English language and how people understand words, that the sort of speech he's making is going to be portrayed in the way that it is going to have the understandable reaction that it does from the immigrant community, and it is going to encourage people who are very clearly racist and are very nasty people indeed to feel that there's some kind of justification for that attitude, and that's very different to discussing what's behind what Powell might be saying.
To you, he's made a cold and calculated attempt then to stir up people's feelings?
He's made a speech in the knowledge that that would be the consequence. Whether one then wants to say that means he's done it with that objective in mind is a matter of judgment, but I'm in no doubt. I mean, I heard, as no doubt you did and Maureen did, something of what he was going to say before it was actually released. And it was absolutely clear to me, as it was to everyone who'd seen that speech in advance, as it must have been clear to Enoch himself, that it would be interpreted in the way that it has, and there'd be very few people who put on it the kind of charitable, gentle explanation of a warning that Maureen has attributed to.
Has he broken the law at all?
I think he may have done. He may well have broken the new law, but again, there is a very big question as to whether it's right to invoke the law automatically whenever there's a technical breach, and I think that the case for not acting in regard to the post office workers is rather similar to the case for not acting in this instance, that really the enforcement of the law through the courts would probably be counterproductive.
You're shaking your head. You don't think he's broken the law in any way?
Well, I don't think he ought to have done. I think if we're going to lose this kind of tradition of free speech in Britain, it's going to be a very sad place indeed to live in, and I think it's very sad the way the immigrant community have responded to the very mild words that I've said, which is to discuss the whole issue intelligently. They have said, why doesn't she join the National Front? Now, after 28 years' membership of the Labour Party, my message back to them is I have no intention of joining the National Front. For them or anyone else, we ought to be able to discuss it intelligently. I would be more impressed if they
Maureen,
But
the
Mr.
fact
let
that
me just
you've
interrupt, Mr.
advertised that obscene organisation is a consequence of Powell's speech.
Last few seconds. Mr. Silken has been approached by many to either prosecute himself or instruct the Director of Public Prosecutions to go for Mr. Powell. Do you think he will?
I hope not. I don't think he should. He would be very ill-advised to.
Do you think he'll prosecute?
I think it would be very inappropriate to do so.
Because it would give a
And,
platform to Mr. Powell,
The only
presumably.
thing is that if there were many people who took the kind of interpretation of Powell's word that Maureen has, it might be necessary in order to explain what those words really meant.
Miss Cahoon, Mr. Layton, thank you very much indeed.